the bump and run, the Bristol move.
That's aggressive, but that's good. Good hard racing. Oh, he puts him out of the groove there. Oh, man.
Will he get the bumper? Yes, he does. Here comes Logano. Logano on the inside. A drag race. They're sideways. And it's going to be Logano getting the win.
The back end of the 18. Kick out.
Yeah, he got into it.
Moved him out of the way.
Just got the lead. It's almost too early to be racing that hard for the lead, wasn't it?
Never too early to be racing for the lead.
At Bristol.
At Bristol.
Man, this is one of the biggest wins of my career.
It's the bump and run,
baby.
Yeah, welcome to the Bump and Run podcast. I'm your host, Michael DIY, joined by my two best friends, Matt the Statman Reilly and Eric Daytona Ron. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you guys had yourselves a Sweet Willy 2 type of weekend. He was the big winner down in Darlington for the Goodyear 400, getting redemption for last year when that scumbag Joey Logano stole one from him. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Podcast available on all podcasts every Monday night. Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and more. And available on YouTube every Tuesday morning. Fellas, how was your weekend? I didn't get to really talk to you guys much. It was a busy one with Mother's Day, and I had some stuff going on at work today. I feel like we didn't have our back and forth all day long about the race, so I don't know how to gauge it with you guys this week. But how you guys feeling? Eric, you doing all right, bud?
I'm doing good. Friday, got out of work, got the old grass cut because it's growing like a sumbitch this time of year. So it was good to get that cut. And, you know, it's always good to force your neighbors to cut. You know, when you're the first one to cut, you know what I mean? So, like, when I got home on Friday, I'm like, I'm cutting it. I don't care. I'm cutting it. And then after work, it was like, I don't know, maybe a couple hours later, I see my neighbor out there. Like, you could tell, though, did not want to have to cut the grass. But when someone else does it and you're right next with no fence, you kind of have to get it cut. So got the grass cut, did some yard work. Saturday, I went up to my parents' camper, and I surprised my mother up there for the day, for Mother's Day. Took her out to dinner. And Sunday, relaxed for most of the day. It was a beautiful day out in the garage, and cooked myself up some cheesesteaks on the old Blackstone and watched the old Darlington race. So good weekend for me, all in all.
That sounds like a quality weekend. How about you, Matt? What'd you do all weekend? How'd you celebrate your wife's first Mother's Day?
So we celebrated, got her some gifts that, of course, were wrong. No. I got her. So the new thing nowadays is that the Stanley Cup mug that's like supposed to be comparable to like Yeti, or some are even saying it's better than Yeti. Well, she's been saying like for the past couple of weeks or months that she wants one. So I said, okay, just pump the brakes. I'll get you one.
Yeah.
I'll get you one. Right. She had told me the size that she wanted, but of course in this year, out that year, all I heard was Stanley Cup mug or whatever. Right. So I'm like, perfect. Last week, order one online on Target.com. I'm like, it's going to be in on time. I'm going to crush this Mother's Day, dude. She opens it. She's like, oh, my God, thank you so much. But it's the wrong size. She was like, it's no big deal. She was like, I'll get my own. You can use this one. I was like, no, I'll get the right one. So, of course, I screwed that up because I wasn't listening, wasn't paying attention like always. But no, she loved it. And then made some dinner for her last night, gave her a little massage, a little foot massage. So it was a nice little first Mother's Day for her.
So Stanley Quencher, I had to look it up because in my mind, I'm thinking Lord Stanley's cup. And I'm like, I want a cup like that. That sounds badass. You imagine
the shape of the Stanley Cup.
Stanley Cup.
That's what I was thinking too. I'm like, Matt, you got her that?
Yeah.
Huge hockey fan, I guess. But like, kind of weird.
The family's big into hockey, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Hey man, this is Penguins country up here. You know,
That's right,
we're born and bred in the arena. So no, that's cool though. I had a great weekend myself. You know, I feel like I'm sounding a lot better. I'm not coughing as much. I'm on the last day of the steroid, so I'm still a little hyped up. This weekend was pretty relaxed though. Took my mother and my girlfriend's mother out to dinner yesterday. I had to actually split the cup race in half because it was 6 o'clock reservations. So I got the first two stages in, DVR'd the rest, came home at like 9:30 and watched the rest. I was up until 11 o'clock texting you guys while you were snoozing, like, oh my God, the carnage and stuff. Avoided all spoilers. I didn't look at my phone during dinner. I saw like 19 messages, didn't look at them until after the race. And fellas,
we didn't say anything, did we, Matt? I don't think we
let's take the listeners a little peek behind the curtain, shall we? I told Eric in a Snapchat, in the same Snapchat group that Whitey was in, so he could see that was my plan. Was I was going to find out where Mother's Day dinner was for the Whitey family, and then go walk in the front door, just shout out, William Byron won, and then walk right out.
Walk out. Oh my God, I would have been so devastated.
William Byron won.
Well, we went to.
That would totally be something I would do for sure, 100%.
That is something.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Like, we didn't do anything, did we? I'm like, we were talking about it.
That would have been good. I would have been so mad.
Don't cue us in on any future like dinners or anything, because I'm definitely gonna do something like that.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna have to avoid it all. But
always with the ball busted. We can't help ourselves. It's in our
bang
blood.
Bang on a window with a sign that just says "Slick Willy 2 claws."
Here's the thing: if it wasn't for busting balls, what else would we talk about? But we got a NASCAR race to talk about, so let's break it down with the NASCAR news.
The Bump and Run NASCAR news.
All right, just a couple pieces of news, not a whole lot of major stuff, but last week, of course, the big conversation was the Noah Gragson and Ross Chastain fight. No additional penalties from NASCAR after that. I didn't think there would be any additional penalties. I think it would be a bad call if they did. How about you guys?
They have to stay out of that, because listen, that's what that's where all the outsiders see. All the non-NASCAR fans are seeing it, like we talked about last week. It was all over the TVs everywhere I looked. So, that's just bringing more eyes to the sport. So you can't just like hit these guys with fines and not reap the benefits of what just happened. So,
yeah, I agree. I don't think you could do anything in that situation. I think you just have to embrace it, because everyone seems to be embracing it in the fan base and seems to like, okay, it did bring some needed energy into the season that we needed. And like Matt said, I showed up to work, and my father, who rarely watches the races, is like, hey, what happened with so-and-so? And like my mother, even at dinner on Saturday, is like, oh, what happened here? And I'm explaining it to them, what is this person, that person, because they see it now. It's hit the mainstream to the point where the least fans is going to see that somewhere. And it was funny because I had a little tinfoil hat too after that pre-race on Sunday, where and this is why I do think you should let the drivers handle it themselves. Noah and Ross were laughing, sitting next to each other on pit wall before the race, bullshit with each other.
I saw interviews
I don't know. At this point, it's like, is this like, did June? I think it was Dale Jr. that said, "Oh, maybe they should start marketing it," and blah blah blah. Like, part of me is thinking that they were friends before this happened, and they worked out together. And Ross said that in his interview, and he's like, "Oh, we'll talk it out, we'll sort it out." So to me, something fishy, because I think there was at least 10 other drivers that should have done what Noah did. Instead, Noah went out of his way to do it. So maybe it was some kind of ploy to gain some fans for both the drivers, and maybe it was a staged thing for the future to keep some of that rivalry going.
Did we talk about it last week, where like maybe Noah just he went from being a big personality in the Xfinity series. Maybe he needed to, I don't know.
Right. I think that's what Dale Jr. I think in his podcast kind of, brought that up, and he didn't want to say it outright, but to me, it's looking more and more like it was,
let's keep
an inside job.
Yeah, an inside job. Yeah, a little greasy deal going on.
Like I need a little bit of relevance this week. Let me go up and grab them. Sure. Yeah. Although you want to know what that hit, I don't know if I want to take that punch. That was a nice connection. Other than that, though, let's see. Of course, North Wilkesboro coming up this week. Brad Keselowski is going to run a Cars Tour race on Wednesday. Of course, you could see that, I believe, on Flow TV. And then Kyle Larson's going to be running a Spire truck on North Wilkesboro on Saturday. The Saturday truck race is a points-paying race. What do you guys think about just these drivers kind of getting a little experience before the All-Star race?
More power to them. I would too. You know, I know it's just an all-star race, but there's money behind it. These guys are ultra competitive. So it doesn't matter that there's no points being rewarded. It's still competition and money on the line. So yeah, I mean, get as much seat time as possible leading into this thing, especially because I'm assuming most of these guys have never driven on North Wilkesboro's track. So yeah more seat time.
Yeah, I'd say they're going to try their hardest to win this race because it's like Matt said, it's the first time we're coming back there since 96, I believe. And to me, it's like, hey, you win this race, even though it's not a points paying race, it's an all-star race. You're cemented in the history of the sport forever. So I think everybody wants to see their picture and their burnout and them holding that checkered flag, whether it's the all-star race or a points paying race. So
not to mention, you got to be thinking that these guys and these teams are thinking about the future, right? Like this year, it's just a non-points paying race, but they're not putting all these renovations into that track to just run one all-star race. This track's going to be on the schedule at some point for a points paying event down the road, probably as soon as next year. So take this seriously, gather as much information as possible this weekend and roll with it into the next year or the following year.
Plus, I think, too, with like the worn out surface we have right now, like you want to get as much information just how to drive the car, how to manage your tires as you could get, because we'll have to retweet it. Someone sent a picture in our group message of just the asphalt, and it's like
it looks like Susquehanna Ave.
It looks bad. Susquehanna Ave is a worn out road near us. But yeah, it looks real rough. So it should be pretty interesting. And then before the show, we were talking a little bit about Alex Bowman. But first, Kurt Busch says he's still hopeful to one day return to the Cup Series. What do you guys think about? So I was thinking about this. Like, what do you guys think about Kurt Busch wanting to get back in? Like, I feel like we're coming close to a year since his injury. Do you think it's one of those things where, like, I don't know, maybe just give up the hope, or do you?
I would like to drink like I was able to back when I was 21 and not get hungover. But sometimes you're past your prime, right? Like, no offense to Kurt, he was winning races last year and everything before the injury. But and this is just, and maybe I see Eric disagreeing with me, so maybe this would have been better for a pick a lane segment, but. I don't know. I feel like you've got a solid stable at 23-11. He seems like he's got a really good role going over there as well. He's still close to the competition. Maybe jump in for a race or two here and there, but just let it be, man. You've had a great career, a Hall of Fame career. You're a champion in our sport. Time to look at the next chapter in your life. But, I mean, again, that's really easy for me to say. I'm not in his shoes, so I don't know.
I'll say it this way. I think – just him winning and running, he was running really, really well for his age, for what he was doing. He was running really well. But to your point, Matt, I wouldn't go out of my way to find a car to put him in at 23-11. Like, if you have that car, you have the funding, you know that this is there. Okay, Kurt, all you have to do is step right in. We have this, we have that. You're lined up with sponsors, and it's just like a good to go, a seamless transition. By all means, I think he deserves another shot if he wants it to not retire. Look at Newman coming back. How come no one's saying, Newman, get the fuck out of a Rick Ware car? Why is he going back to a Rick Ware car? You know what I mean? Everyone wants Carl Edwards to come back, especially after what they saw him on the weekend. How old is Carl Edwards? And everyone's probably ranting and raving about Carl coming back. So to me, Kurt Busch is in the same fucking category, maybe even better, because he's been in the car the earliest with these. I think he's the best fit out of any of those guys to come back in the sport.
No, you're right. And you know what? You just called out without trying to, you just called out my hypocritical bullshit, because I was ecstatic yesterday when Carl Edwards in the booth laid down that little nugget in the middle of the broadcast that if that he's been in sim, he's been doing sim work, and that he would maybe give a return, a thought. And I was like, oh my God, like Carl Edwards back in the sport. Like, that's fantastic. Like, I love Carl. I loved Carl then. I love Carl now. And then you're right. I just, I was just kind of talking out of both ends of my mouth. So maybe I'll reconsider what I just said about Kurt.
Yeah. You want to what, Eric? You sold me. I was thinking like, man, like, why are you torturing yourself? But at the same time, I get it. 'Cause like, you don't want to get taken out. You want to go out on your own terms. I think that's definitely a Kurt Busch type of feeling, probably. So yeah, you want to what? I hope Kurt finally gets better, and I hope he can run a Cup race at least one last time. Could you imagine if he came back for like a Pocono race? It's like, oh, him versus the track.
That's the track that took me out.
Yeah, I think that would be a cool
He hit
story.
the wall again.
Oh my god. Oh man, that'd be painful. Speaking of painful, Alex Bowman says he has no updated time frame on when he will return to racing. So unfortunately for him and the fans, we have no idea when he's going to be back in the car. Matt, you were just talking before the show about an interview with Bob Pockrass he did, and kind of describe like kind of the pain he's having and stuff.
Yeah, he it's on Bob Pockrass's Twitter. But it was just an interview outside the hauler. Alex was at the track yesterday, and he was just saying how, he's got x-rays, follow-up doctor's appointments on Wednesday of this week to kind of see where he's at. He said, standing up, walking around, he's fine. Sitting down, he's fine, which is good for being in a car. But he said, and I think anyone with who's ever had back pain, raise your hand if you've ever had back pain. I have a heating pad on my lower back as we speak because I have back pain. So he said, if when he sneezes, when he coughs, that's when he can feel it. When he's driving down the road and he hits a bump, that's when he feels it. So he said he's got some concerns where if he got into the car on the pit stops when they drop the jack, that sudden bounce off the ground, is that going to re-agitate something? And then Bob or one of the reporters there in the huddle asked him an interesting question. If you get cleared this week by the doctors, are you going to be willing to jump back in a car with the pain and everything still lingering? And he had to think about it, and it's just one of those, hey, I'll get back into a car, I'll do some laps around Hendrick Motorsports, campus, and do some testing pit stops to see how I feel. But he sounded very non-committal, which is smart. There's a lot of season left. He's already won a race. He's in the playoffs. He's got that waiver. So just come back at your own pace. That's I think he will. It sounds like.
He didn't win a race yet.
Yeah, he didn't win a race.
No.
Bowman didn't win?
No, no, the only Hendrick ones, Larson and Byron. Bowman didn't win yet.
Can we restart the podcast? Let's just restart from the beginning.
No,
we're only 15
today,
minutes in.
On Sirius XM, I had missed the interview, but they were going to talk to him in a few hours when I was listening, and they said that there was that doctor's appointment you're talking about where there's a possibility that he does return this week. Mm-hmm. I would say from what I heard, and I did hear what Matt was saying, that, man, I wouldn't risk it. Not for this all-star race, not for, if you're going to get the waiver, if you're going to get this, if you're already, there's going to be no problem coming back and wait another week. You know what I mean? I would, he already had the whole Kurt Busch thing. He's seen what happened with that and concussions and junior. He's a part of that. He has to understand that your health is way more important than getting back into that car. So like to your point, Matt, it might be up to him. So I feel like I hope he makes the right decision for himself and for his future.
And for anyone wondering too, if it is Josh Berry, which all signs are pointing towards it will be in the All-Star race this weekend, he doesn't get Bowman's automatic bid to the A main. He would have to qualify for it.
He's going to have to race his way in or get that fan vote. And I think there is still fan voting if you want to get that in for the rest of the week. But boys, let's talk about the racing weekend we had. We had a triple header. We had Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup on track on Friday. The truck race was won by Christian Eckes. Matt, I think you watched a little bit of the truck race, right?
A little bit. Yeah.
Anything of note? I feel like it
took forever. Yeah. A lot of wrecks.
Yeah.
It was Darlington
and the trucks. I know we saw a big one last year, and we saw a big one in the Cup Series. So those truck guys, man, that's just trucking, I guess. Yeah. And then Xfinity was on track on Saturday. I listened to a lot of this race on the MRN broadcast as I was cleaning the house, and then I saw the end. Kyle Larson was victorious in the end. I thought it was a great race. Did you guys check out in the Xfinity Series race?
I saw a little bit of it, and then I missed the ending. Obviously, pulled it up and saw and sorted that all out to see what was going down with that. But But once again, from the racing that I did see, they better just shut the Xfinity series down, because it's just putting the Cup series to shame right now.
The racing's blowing it
it's,
out of
it's
water.
almost at this point,
the Cup series to shame.
Yeah, just stop the it's making the Cup series look bad.
Can we just switch to the Xfinity series car and let all the Cup drivers on Sunday drive the Xfinity series cars? Because that race was awesome. You had everything you want to see. We had tire degradation, we had tire fall off, varying pit strategies and stuff. Kyle Larson drove through the field after getting a pit road penalty, battling hard for the lead at the end there. John Hunter Nemechek, man, he deserved to win that race. He had a fast car all day long.
And you know what? He was his interview afterwards.
Yeah.
Super classy, man. Super classy. It was a racing deal. And he could have been pissed off that, Kyle Larson took a win away from an Xfinity regular. He didn't go that route. It was just nice, hard beating and banging. Super exciting finish.
Yeah. Excellent race. And it seems the Xfinity race is the best race of the weekend anymore. And then the Cup race, William Byron led 2 times for 7 laps. Old Slick Willy 2 clocks getting his win in Darlington. The race lasted 3 hours, 23 minutes, and 23 seconds. We saw 8 cautions for 47 laps, 19 lead changes among 18 different drivers. Your top 5, William Byron, Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, and Bubba Wallace. Let's jump into the race grades.
It's our NASCAR weekend race grade.
And let's start with Eric this week. Eric, what'd you think about the race at Darlington?
I gave it a B. For some reason, it took me quite a while to get into that race. The first stage, it was Mark Truex Jr. How you doing? Let's put a good old ass whooping on him, and that's what he was doing in that first stage. Don't get me wrong, there was still action. My boy EJ, he was driving through the field. He started in the back and he was moving up. He passed 6-7 cars. He was one of the fastest movers, only one in the beginning to be making actual passes. So I was having fun watching that. And then they forgot to put a wheel on his car. And at that point, I'm like, okay, the season is what it is for me. You know what I mean? I kind of went in looking at that.
That's his track, Darlington.
And I know. And he was working on that car and they were moving up. He was starting to get into the top 15 in that moment and run inside the top 15. And you had that blunder. And it was just, oh, man, it took, it just took a little bit of my emotion away for the little bit there when it happened. But to me, I had a hard time getting into it because of, everything going on. I was in the group, I was cooking, and it was just, I don't know if I had full attention like I did in previous races beforehand, even though it was just me and Dana in the garage watching it. I feel like it was another one of those races where the third stage is when stuff started to heat up. And we didn't have one of those races in a while, where it took to the, second, third stage to kind of figure out what's happening with the tire wear and who's doing this. And so I gave it a B. It was good. The end, I always want to see these races go green. And at the end, when you have, we've talked about it, when you have the people that are running up front all day and they don't finish up front all day because something happens at the end and stuff gets jumbled up and moved forward and backward. And, hey, that's racing. Sometimes you get these finishes that land in your lap. And some people, that's part of their style of racing, is keeping your car clean all day long. But it was overall, it was a great race. People will say they're passing. That's one of my favorite tracks to watch passing, because you have to set it up. You have to really understand what you're doing as a driver to really get that other car uncomfortable and to try to make those passes. Very narrow track, and it doesn't look as narrow on TV when you're watching it. It looks like you have a ton more room, but that dotted line on the bottom is kind of the extent of where you could go before the banking changes and your car gets uncomfortable down there. So watching the guys take different lines and angles through the turns and how they manage that, always fun to watch at Darlington. Riding up there next to the wall, getting the stripes, seeing the people banging, and I will say this racetrack became a lot more fun with this new car because that Darlington stripe used to take out a lot of cars with those fenders and the tires going down. And this car seems to be able to get up into that wall and not really affect it as much. And if you break a toe link, they seem to have a good handle on that to get it fixed and get back out there. So all in all, I thought it was a great day. I think a little bit of my driver woes really got me this week and emotionally took me out of it there. But love the cars, love the paint scheme. And at the end there, man, it's almost tinfoil hatty to see that paint scheme in Victory Lane because, man, that
it was the best one of the weekend.
It was awesome.
It was. Although, you want to know what? I loved that Eric Jones Petty throwback scheme.
Oh, it was clean. Very simple and clean.
Nice.
And I think that's why I was devastated to see it go around like that because I think he actually had an opportunity for a top 10 at Darlington and really solidify that that is his track that he loves, his number one, his go-to. And it just goes to show that he was running up there in the top 15 with how shitty that they've been and how he was passing cars before they didn't get that wheel on all the way. It just goes to show that he does know how to get around that racetrack regardless of what kind of equipment that he's in.
I think you make some good points too, because I'm gonna give my race grade now because I kind of want to piggyback on some of the stuff you said, but I gave it a B too. I thought it was a really good race. Of course, it was hard to pass, but I think the action was still kind of there to keep me entertained and my attention. And I think some of the action is just watching drivers race the track, where like you said, it's so narrow and they're right against the wall. Like at one point, Bree, what after dinner we were watching at the end, but they had a nice zoom in shot on the end of turn 4. And I woke Bree up. I go, Bree, you just got to watch how fucking close they get to the wall. It blows my mind.
Probably really appreciated that.
Yeah. No, she's like, oh yeah, I get it. I'm like, but I had it this is the little thing about NASCAR that I'm like, this is why I'm a fan. They're doing it lap after lap, consistency. It's just amazing how close they are. And that's the exciting part for Darlington for me. And like you said too, you have to set up those passes. A lot of the passes have to happen on the front or back stretch. You're not making the passes in the turn. You're kind of getting them at the end there. And I agree too. The first stage was a little rough because Martin Truex Jr. running away with it. But other than that, I just enjoy watching Darlington racing because it's Darlington,
The cars, when they're side by side, Whitey, that's what I mean by being narrow.
There's just no
They
room.
might not necessarily have been racing for position. You know, at a normal racetrack, normal mile and a half, they're racing for position. Oh, where's he going to go? Well, he's up here, go racing for position. Is he going to get him? Is he not going to get him? They're a little bit more fanned out. At Darlington, you can't fan out.
No.
You're racing the guy next to you, regardless if you want to be racing him or not. You're racing him, and he's there, and he's there, and there's nothing you could do about it. You have to hold that, and there were times this is a racetrack where give me the inside camera. I want to see their hands working. And man, where their hands working, that bump, oh my God, the bump, you go over the bump, they're really working, and that track, it has character. It's tough to get around.
I tell you what, it was right in the beginning of the race, right at the first restart. It was Martin Truex Jr. and Bubba Wallace, side by side. And I just see this hole behind, in third. I'm like, Bubba, just duck in and stay safe, settle in and just drive it. But for 5 or 6 laps, they're just side by side the whole entire time with about that much room in between the cars. I'm like, this is insanity. That enough for me was to got me hyped for the race too. So how about you, Matt? What did you think of the race?
Everything that you guys just said. Just real quick before I give my grade is just to piggyback off of what Whitey was saying with how crazy it is and how close they race that wall. In my younger days, I used to try this. I won't do it anymore. I don't have the balls anymore like I used to. But on the turnpike, right? Have you guys ever tried to see how close you can get to the wall?
No.
And how long you can do it for? So I have, and the answer is not long at all because like I can get pretty close to it with like my mirror. Obviously we have side mirrors.
Yeah.
I get pretty close to it, but like I only do it for about 10 or 15 seconds and I got to back off. And I'm also only doing 60, 70 miles an hour too, you know?
So
it just goes to show you how hard it is.
No, that's why I woke up Bree, because as I was watching that, I was just thinking about the stress and anxiety that I get on the PA Turnpike because for anyone outside the state of Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Turnpike is just a regular 2-lane highway, but it's only divided by concrete Jersey barriers. And so like the other side of traffic is right there. And I get so nervous in that passing lane just because it's very tight. And I'm always afraid I'm going to smack that fucking Jersey barrier and fuck up the side of my car and cause a big old pile up or whatever. And yeah, just that stress and anxiety on the turnpike doing, like you said, 70, 75, 85 miles per hour. It's like too stress inducing.
Yeah. That's why Noah was throwing up because like when he would get in those situations, and he would get nervous and he would get that anxiousness. He would stop breathing. He'd be like, oh, come on, I'm going to. And then like he would stop breathing and he would make himself sick. And like, oh man, that's not good. So I'm glad now that you just made me think of that. I'm glad Noah I think he got that sorted out. He hasn't really done that in quite some time now.
Well, he hasn't been up front contending for wins either. So like the nerves are kind of off. Now
that'll do it.
Now he's just trying to survive, I think, you know?
I gave it just a half a point better than you guys. I gave it a B+. I really liked what I saw. So last year I gave the 2 Darlington races an A- and an A+ respectively. So racing might have taken a little bit minor dip, but still really fun. It kept me glued, which is saying a lot because I had a Celtic Game 7, go Celts. And we also, like I said, I was cooking for Mother's Day during all of stage 3. And I was still, you know, privy of what was going on. I was still kind of glued to it. So, you know, this car makes it so hard to pass at a track like Darlington. But, you know, we had to rely on tires to help make those passes, which is fine because we did have some tire wear off that allowed some comers and goers. You know, we had more Chastain drama. You know, the guy seems to be able to drive content better than he can drive a race car. So as a co-host of a NASCAR podcast, I'm super thankful for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked what I saw. I really did. It was a B+ race. And then, you know, I kind of want to just mirror everything that you guys said as well. I totally agree with everything.
Yeah. I think it was a solid Mother's Day race. Let's jump into the checkers and wreckers, and we'll see what we didn't like about it, though.
3 wide for the lead. 1 lap to go.
It's this week's checkers and wreckers.
And since we started with Eric for the race grades, Matt, you want to start with your checkers and wreckers?
Yep. So my checkers is going to go to Bubba Wallace and the 23 crew. Had a super fast car again.
Yeah.
Had some pit road issues, which marred him back in the pack. Usually when that happens, Bubba melts down and the race may as well be done at that point. But he kept his cool. The team and him fought hard and they got a 5th place finish out of it. If NASCAR didn't screw up the restart order at the end there, you know, he might have even had a shot at winning the race, or maybe even top 2 or 3. But we can talk about that after. I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
If Bubba can harness that type of mentality on a consistent basis, I think he could be a perennial top 10 team. And as a matter of fact, he has been recently. That's his 2nd straight top 5, and then his 3rd top 10 out of the last 5 races, I believe. And he's sitting 15th in points. He's 30 or 31 points, 31 points to the good as far as the playoff cutoff rate goes right now. So he's having a solid season and he's becoming that driver that, you know, a lot of people thought he could be, including us 3. So just got to get out of his own way, clear up some of that mental stuff. And if he can do all that, he's showing what he can do on the track.
I saw a tweet, someone that monitors his scanner that tweets along and stuff. And after that pit road error, he got on with his spotter, Freddie Kraft, and he goes, "Are they able to pass?" And Freddie just like, yeah, people are able to pass. I think that kind of put his mind at ease. I think that was a good job by Freddie to kind of, you know, give him some hope. Don't ruin your own day now because you're going to try to overdrive the car or whatever. And like you said, just patience, waiting it out and gaining track position where you could. That's how you get top fives, and that's how the wins eventually come, just putting together days like that. How about your wreckers, though?
My wreckers, so Whitey, sound the alarms. I've got a highly unpopular opinion alert coming in hot. You looking for an alarm?
No, I don't have an alarm, but I got wreckers crash.
So here we go. Nope. That's too positive for what I want to say. Fair enough.
All right.
That's more closely resembling what I'm about to say. So I thought the booth rotation of the NASCAR legends yesterday was terrible.
Yeah.
Especially when the King was in the booth. Listen, I get it. We have to have respect for him and for what he's meant to our sport and yada, yada, yada. I get it. But when I'm watching the race, I'm not looking, Wade, you said it perfectly yesterday in our group chat. I'm not looking for a history lesson that I can barely understand, by the way. I'm looking for high quality analysis of what's going on in the race, especially when the racing was really good. And I don't know. There was not a lot of consistency. I get why they do it. They do it every year. I know NBC did it when they had the throwback race. So this isn't an exclusive Fox thing. So I'm not going to rip Fox on it.
Yeah.
I also didn't think that the group of three or four. No, I want to take Kyle Petty out of this because I think he's exceptional. I think Kyle Petty's actually great at it. So I kind of want to take him out of it. But Bill Elliott, Carl to a certain extent, and especially the King, I just thought didn't bring what I want in a broadcasting booth.
Yeah, I agree, Matt. And I knew it was going to be one of ours wreckers was going to be that. So in my race grade, I didn't kind of mention it because I knew we would get to this point here. That is the main reason the beginning of that race and that second stage and everything kind of lost me, because I remember I'm in my garage. I'm going, just shut up. I want to know what's going on in the race. I have no idea what's going on right now in the race.
Yeah.
I have the race on, but I'm listening to you mumble. So I'm half listening to try to figure out what you're saying and your stories. But then on the racetrack, I'm like, oh, what's that? Like I lost it. I think in that moment, my concentration, bam, they lost me. I went back. I'm cooking. I'm doing this. I'm over here. Blah. I was just not focused on my TV because it was a distraction for me as a fan. And like you said, I want to know what's going on right now. Interject here and there. Don't tell a 5-minute story though. You know what I mean? And once you need Kyle Petty in there to be like a translator and a caretaker for the King to bring him in and out and to reassure his stories and all this stuff, it's too much.
That's what he was. How many times did he say Dad, I'm talking to you?
Yeah.
I thought he was terrible in that third stage. He offered nothing in my opinion in that third stage. There was zero input to it. He basically was like he had a tail between his legs because he was afraid that he was going to say something about Chase and be super biased. And he didn't know what else to do or say. Carl, I noticed him picking up Bowyer's slack, to be honest. Bowyer was screwing up and Carl's he would go into what the race was doing. I'm like, dude, Carl even knows that you should shut up right now and start saying this and that. And if he was going on a long thing, Carl would cut it short and talk about the race. I thought Carl was better than Clint.
That's because Carl's a super smart dude.
Yeah, and it was just a weird, man. I agree. It was weird. And I think if it was a normal broadcast, I might have given this race a better grade because my attention would have been on it a little bit more. I kind of did zone out when some of those people were in the booth a little.
No, and you know what? I agree with you guys, and I love the history of the sport. I really do find it fascinating. I love the legends of the sport. I would love to see them in segments, but like you said, I want race analysis as it's happening. I love the stories. That's why I love listening to the Dale Jr. Download. Put these guys on the Fox NASCAR podcast to tell stories for Darlington week or something. Put them on the pre-race show to come in, tell some cool stories about Darlington. But while
my thing is put them on the post-race show for all of that. Get the fans there. Keep them entertained. Give me the interviews. Give me this, and then right from the interviews, go right into be like, oh, NASCAR history. Make a segment out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, hey, the eyes are already there. I would have definitely left that on and watched that. To listen to the legends tell their stories of back in the day. I mean, I know a lot of the podcasts take that over. And that's where people get that information, and they want to get that information that way, not during the actual broadcast of what's racing right now, today in front of us.
But I did think Carl Edwards did a really good job in stage 2. I thought he was a fantastic broadcaster, and
he's just smart and sharp. And you could tell, like I know there were some rumblings about like his political aspirations. Like you could tell if he wanted to, he can go that route. Just with his public speaking alone, he's a sharp dude.
Yeah. How about you,
Always
Eric?
taking the glasses out before the interview too. Kept it going.
Yeah. How about you, Eric? What's your checkers and wreckers?
My checkers, man, it just seems like I'm giving it to this team. I'm still upset over last year's cold take that I had. RFK, man. That team, this like the third consecutive week in a row where they've placed both cars in the top 10. They are just on a trajectory that I don't even know if I saw this coming, even when I wanted them to win last year. But it's just, man, I loved that paint scheme too that Brad was running, and he had a great car all day. And there was a point in that race where I'm like, Brad might win this, and I got a little excited to see it, old school Darlington. I would have loved to see Brad back in victory lane. And I had to give it to them. That team is just on fire. And for Ford, they got shit on all week on SiriusXM, Larry Mack, all these people to stay away from Ford, stay away from Ford, stay away from Ford. And to me, I kind of listened, and I'm like, the only one I'm going to trust is Harvick. And that's who I had in my fantasy lineup. And he ended up having a really good day as well. But those Fords, some of them showed up. I mean, even Harrison Burton, we don't talk about him a lot, but he deserved that finish and that race that he had, man. He battled hard, especially at a Darlington. So some of those people in that Ford camp, they're starting to maybe figure it out a little bit.
Dude, Brad had an average running position of 6th yesterday. That's awesome.
That is really good.
That's really hard to do.
So I'm glad you brought up Harrison Burton, because I almost gave him my checkers, but I couldn't, just because like I want to see more consistency out of him. But did you see his post-race interview where he was? No. They had a really nice long post-race show, which I really appreciated, because then they interviewed the whole top 10, and Harrison Burton said something that made a whole lot of sense to me, where he's like, last year and even the beginning of this year, things were moving so fast. And it seems within the last couple weeks for him, he said things are slowing down on track. And I think he's just getting more of a grasp of what cup racing is all about, like his mind and everything is adjusting. So I'm not gonna go off on a limb and say like, oh, Harrison Burton's gonna be like fucking great going forward. But for all the struggles we saw out of Harrison, or like lack of even seeing Harrison on track over the last year and a half, it was nice to see him really get a nice earned top 10. How about your, did you do your records?
No, my record is, it has to go to NASCAR's race director, whoever calls the shots.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they really, really, really screwed up on Sunday. There was a couple instances where even the guys in the booth were like, I think Ross jumped that.
Yeah.
Ross, both restarts crossed the start-finish line before the leader did. And to me, they say they looked at it here and there. I would love to see, they have the data of who gets on the throttle and who doesn't. You know what I mean? So, like, I would love to see if they did get it right, or if they're trying to cover up for something that they got wrong.
No, they got it wrong, because during the broadcast, I think they played Cliff Daniels' audio. I'm almost certain. And he said, he goes, we checked the trace data, like he jumped us, but then like, I think Bill Elliott kind of like helped backtrack, where it's like, I guess if you get to the end of the restart zone and you don't fire off, then it's the flagman that starts the race and you could fire it off. So,
you know who wouldn't have allowed that to happen?
David,
the former race director, David Hoots. Look at that man. That's the face of a man who wouldn't let that shit go down.
I mean, besides those two calls there, which I thought, were critical to the end of that race, then you have the mess up of the cars that were involved, not involved. And that's where we said where Bubba, he kind of got screwed at the end there because, he got jumped by other cars that were involved. And NASCAR says, hey, they weren't involved. And I love the picture they posted. All three cars are accordion together.
Yeah, like nose to tail. You see
everyone else down low missing it. And then it starts the whole conversation of safety. And do they really care? Because half of the field, when a wreck happens, you choke up. But in recent years, this new car, I should say, in the last couple, everyone's throttling up and flooring out of it to try to gain positions.
Yeah.
And now you have, do you throttle up to gain positions? Oh, do you slow up? Like, oh, you drove through, so you're going to get penalized and start at the back end because you didn't do that. And it's like, now you're getting into this messy territory of when wrecks happen, how do you score these guys? If you throttle up, if you don't throttle up, why you got to confuse the fans even more right now? You're already screwing stuff up earlier. Like, what? Stop this nonsense. You're so inconsistent with your rules, and now you're inconsistent with cautions on the racetrack, when you call it, how you call it, and the reasoning behind why you do these things. So I just thought it was a bad look for whoever is in charge of that race day calls and looks to see what happens there. I thought that affected my race grade a little bit at the end there, where I didn't like to see that at the end. And it just, we never like to hear of that little bit of controversy that goes into it and steals away from the show. So I have to wreck NASCAR for their decision-making at the end of that race for a couple things that I thought were a little greasy.
Yeah, I agree with that, Wreckers, man. I actually, I thought about making it mine. So I'm glad you did that. I wondered though, do you think there's some like gamesmanship that the drivers are playing, like you said, where like some guys are gassing it up to gain positions during these wrecks and stuff because it is so hard to pass?
100% they are, yes.
And like, I wonder if it's like something that's been known in the garage for a while and we're just starting to pick up on it, and I don't know.
You notice it. I mean, it happens on the restarts. Like we said, we could have got it wrong because, hey, maybe Larson was trying to like wait, hold, and play that game. And then maybe like he was waiting for the next time, maybe he was going to go immediately catch him off guard. So I know drivers do that in the restart zones. They'll hold till the end and then go. And then the next time, if they're still up front, they'll go immediately because he's like waiting for you. Oh, he's going to go at the end again.
Yeah.
Throw him off. So I know that happens. So I would assume when other stuff happens, it's like, oh, gas. Because you hear the spotters, gas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like other guys are telling their driver to gas up.
Other guys are
saying,
like, check up.
Back it down. So now the driver that's backing down versus gassing up, how do you determine that, I
don't know. That's pretty interesting though. What's up, Matt?
Oh, I'm sorry. You guys just lost me for 5 minutes. I was just looking at pictures of David Hoots. That man, he's the one who coined the phrase, put it out. Put it out. David Hoots, if you're listening, just pull your car over to the side of the road right now and just Google pictures of David Hoots. That was a no-nonsense man right there.
I love that. I love put her out. All right, my checkers and wreckers. I got to give my checkers to Joey Logano. All last week, we talked about how the Fords are at a disadvantage aero-wise, and he was stuck in the middle of the pack all day long. And at some point, I'm not exactly sure how, but he worked his way into the top 5, and at about lap 15 or with 15 to go, before that Newman spin, I really thought he could put himself into contention to win. And I'm just like, man, fucking say what you will about Joey Logano, but the guy's fucking talented to just take like a mid-pack car, put it in the top 5. Now, obviously, he got caught up in one of those wrecks on a restart, and he finished in 18th, but I was just really impressed by him. But you know who I'm even more impressed by? Brad Keselowski, who's doing it in a Roush Ford, and he did finish in the top 5. So my checkers goes to Brad, and fuck you, Joey Logano. So I'm on the same page as Eric. Just absolutely impressive what Brad Keselowski is doing, and honestly, I was really impressed by Joey Logano yesterday. Like, from everything we heard, I wouldn't play. I didn't play any Fords in my lineup.
But what did I tell you? What did I text you guys?
What's that? I don't remember.
Today, I said, when I saw the results come in, Harrison Burton in the top 10.
Oh, yeah.
Harvick, Logano. There was 5 Fords in the top 10, I think. And everyone's like, stay away from them. They're terrible. Their nose, the arrow, the this, the that. But here's the thing. They might have gotten these top 10s. And whenever they do finish up front, I don't think it's because they have actual speed.
No, it's because everyone else wrecks themselves.
Ford is slow. They're racing in the back because they're slow. They let all the Chevy jackasses up front take each other out, and they just, it falls in their lap. Hey, let's let those guys, let's let the Chevys and the Toyotas, let's let them be assholes and take each other out up front. And then by the end of the race, if we just hang around with our 18th place car, well, now we're in 10th.
Yeah, no, for real. It happened to Logano at Dover, I think, and Kansas. Maybe.
They just hang around enough. They take care of their cars, and they're not fast enough to be battling for the lead. But the guys that battle for the lead of recent have just been taking themselves out and causing these big wrecks and taking out 5 or 6 quality cars.
Yeah.
That the Ford camp just jumps ahead of at the end.
Dude, how many great cars got taken out at the end of that third stage?
Yeah, it was bullshit.
Just rocket ships getting destroyed. Yeah. But my wreckers, and I don't know, I didn't really have much to complain about. So I'm giving my wreckers to Seabell's pit crew. Just unfortunate.
Yeah, good one. I was devastated over that. Absolutely devastated. Once EJ's tire came off, and I actually looked over at Dana, and I'm like, listen, I still got Seabell in the race. He's got a rocket ship today.
Yeah.
And literally, right after I say that, I'm like, what? He's going back down pit road.
Yeah, it was 15 to go. He was in second place coming to the choose, and they had to duck down to pit road and tighten a lug nut. Just unfortunate timing on that money stop. I forget where he finished. I think he finished like 11th or something like that.
I'll say, I think a little bit, this is me. I think I'm holding a little bit of like this bad mojo for my drivers right now. Something's got to change. I don't know if it's like the Fox once they're done and after this all-star break, maybe something will change. Maybe my vibe. I don't know if we need a new moon. I need some gypsy oil from my mother. Something.
Yeah.
But I know what you got to do. Now, this is going to be hard because we've had beautiful weather, but for one race, you got to watch it inside, brother. Get out of the garage, go watch it in the living room, watch one race inside, and maybe that'll flip some of the juju around. He's got to get some different momentum going.
Because what was it? The last couple of weeks in a row, I tried I'm going to wear the new Legacy gear. That didn't work. So then the next week, I don't know if it was come back. I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I took off. I'm like, Focus Factor, you're not part of this team anymore. I changed my front license plate on my truck, put the Allegiant one on there. Not 2 seconds after I put that Allegiant on there, he spun 3 times in the race. And I'm like, are you kidding? What is going? I'm about to put I have it right here. This is going on my truck. Mac had this Husky Tools car.
That's how I would always know it was Eric coming down the road. I'd throw him up the 2 fingers. Like on the front of the jacked up F-150, I'd throw up the 2 fingers because I saw that red license plate coming at me.
Yeah, it's like, I got to put it back on because I need to change something. And I think I'm a part of this. Everyone, follow Christopher Bell. Both races that I said, at least I got C Bell left in it. Something bad happened to him too. So I don't know. I feel like Clint Boyer was last year. Every time he brought somebody up in the broadcast,
they'd wreck like 2 laps later.
Yeah.
I
got to do something here. I'm putting a little bit of this on my shoulders.
I think that's why I actually don't like Clint Boyer as a broadcaster, because all of last year, anytime Tyler Reddick was running in the top 10, I'm like, man, Reddick's running really good today, and then smacks the wall 2 fucking seconds later. But I feel your pain, man. I've been doing the same thing. I've been not wearing NASCAR shirts on certain on Sundays, and then like,
Oh, yeah.
or like I'll wear a different dress. Like, mate, you want to what? Honestly, Eric, I think I've been jinxing you because I've been wearing an Eric Jones shirt on Sundays.
Oh.
Reddick's been running great while I wear my Jones shirt, and then Jones has just been shit in the bed.
Keep wearing it. My season's a wash, Mighty. Keep wearing it.
I wore a ragtag T-shirt yesterday that had nothing to do with NASCAR because I said to myself, I've got to do something. Chase has got to win a goddamn race. And
he got third place. He was close. He was there.
And I tried bringing my mojo back. The last time I saw EJ win, we were all, in the garage. I had my Tide baby blue Eric Jones shirt on. So I'm like, going back to Darlington, that's the shirt I had on. And at this point in time, I might have to, Whitey, you're right. I think all my shirts are going to the bottom of the drawer. I'm done with them.
Bottom of the drawer. Oh, no, brother, you won't see those for years.
Years.
But yeah, no, I don't know, man. It's a fucking grind. But we didn't even get into the meat of this race. All the controversy at the end. So we gotta talk about Ross Chastain, Kyle Larson. But yeah, there's a couple different things too, though. Martin Truex Jr., he led twice for 145 laps. Of course, his day ended on that late race restart. Came home 31st. I can't exactly remember what started that accident though, because that one happened before.
Bonehead moved by Truex, trying to win stage 2, overdrove it just like Ross did in that last restart, and from that point forward, he said that his car just was never the same from that point forward, and it didn't take him completely out of it, but his car, he said, it definitely didn't handle the same after that.
It was also Ross checking up so he wouldn't lap his teammate Suarez, and I just don't think Martin was ready for that. Which you're right, that is a boneheaded move on him because you got to be prepared for absolutely everything when you're racing Ross Chastain.
And then in that third stage though, he put him kind of himself back up front to compete, and then another boneheaded move on his part. Yeah. So just a rough day for Martin Truex Jr. Felt bad for him. I felt bad for myself because I picked him on the podcast last week, and I thought that it was an amazing pick for about half that race. But unfortunate for that. Ross Chastain, he led 4 times for 93 laps. I think he was the first one to make a green flag pass for the lead too. He
ran him down. He was the only car to get up front to make one of those passes.
Yeah, and his day ended early after about 2 tussles by my count with Kyle Larson. He finished 29th. So and Larson, he led 3 times for 29 laps. He finished on the lead lap with heavy damage in 20th. So where do we even begin with the Kyle Larson, Ross Chastain conversation?
I'll start this one off. I think, to me, what Larson and John Hunter Nemechek did on Saturday was amazing. That was awesome. That kid will never forget racing Kyle Larson for that. And he obviously was all smiles and loved it. Like, he got to race a cup champion. And I think, that puts a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths when they go down there and do that. But when a driver, they enjoy that. But Larson was still involved in an issue. I'm beginning to see that we're talking a lot about Ross Chastain and how he's involved in a lot of this stuff, but look who he's involved with. Yeah. Kyle Larson. So I think both of them are at fault here. I think Larson, people are figuring out the way he races. You got to remember, he's fairly new to running up front and winning all these races and being, quote unquote champion, top 3 in the sport.
Yeah, that's true.
We watched him race bad equipment for years in that 42 car, trying to get up there, trying to make these wins, learning it. And he raced the right way. But now that you're running up front, we're finding out that he's not kind of racing as clean as maybe people think or thought he was at a certain point. So I think we have to look at Larson here as well, not just Ross. I see a lot of people burying Ross. Larson, he puts people in bad spots too. And I think people are saying, hey, I'm not lifting for you anymore either. Like, I would give you the benefit of the doubt, but hey, I see you squeeze me. This is the way it's going to go. So I just want to start out saying that let's not pile on Ross here. Let's maybe look at Larson as well, because he seems to be the one that is getting into it with Ross. You look at Denny. Who was involved in that? Denny and Larson, right?
Yeah.
And who was involved last year? Denny and Chastain. So maybe it's not just one driver. Maybe there are a few.
Yeah.
And, you know, everyone wants to point the finger because Ross is new. Ross is, you know, the young gun, the guy that's target. In this. Hey, let's keep the smoke on him. And to me, it seems like, hey, maybe some more of these drivers in the Cup field. Hey, maybe if that's the way that you're going to be and the way you're going to race, then everyone starts racing that way. Or, you know, start looking yourself in the mirror.
Well said, man. I agree with about everything you just said there. There's really nowhere I can even find an argument if I wanted to. The one thing I wanted to say was that, like Larson is like, listen, dude, he's best friends with Denny Hamlin off the track. And even Denny said it a couple weeks ago on his podcast. Like, Larson's low. He didn't say this. I'm paraphrasing, you know, but he more or less said Larson's a dirty driver out there and everyone kind of knows it. And, Whitey, I thought you said it again. You said it great yesterday in our group chat. You know, he's used. I think it was you who said it in our group chat that he's a dirt racer. He's used to racing again. It was you because he badmouthed Reddick, and that's why I got you going there. Yeah, and you know, he's used to racing these. You know, Saturday night warriors on dirt tracks where he thinks that he can just go and pretty much do whatever he wants. Well, you're on the elite level here. Here's the other thing that I have to say too is, like, Larson, dude, you're a champion in our sport. Like, okay, I understand why you're upset. You go back to Dover, you go back to Talladega. Ross has wronged you in the past, and you kind of want to make that right. I get that. Fine. But, dude, you're a champion in the sport. We've got a restart for the race, for the win here. And you're screwing around with him and going back and forth and beating and banging. Like, dude, get out in front, beat him, and win the race. Like, what do you do? Like, if you want to screw around with him with 30, 40 laps to go, be my guest. But when it comes down to crunch time, like, you got to learn to just let it go and go get that win. But again, I was just going to say, go get that win and then deal with Ross after the race. But Kyle has proven that he doesn't have what it takes to face somebody face to face in a confrontational situation. So he does it on the track.
Yeah, and Matt, like to your point too, this is where I kind of go, well, Ross Chastain has to learn just as much because you finished 29th, you could have finished second, Ross.
Yeah.
Oh, it's both of them. You
know what I mean? It's like Ross, in that final restart, he didn't have to do what he did. You could have came home in second. You could have squeezed them. And if you did that, you knew what was going to happen. He says, I didn't think I was going to get us tight. You knew you were going to get that tight. Everyone all day long was getting tight and washing up the racetrack. It's a tight racetrack. You knew what you were doing. You chose violence over winning a race.
You know what that looked like? Sorry, I finish your thought.
No, like, to me, like I said it in the text earlier, without that Hail Melon, which he didn't even win a race with it, well, what has Ross Chastain done in the last year? He hasn't won a race. All he's done is pissed people off. And to me, I'm going to say, keep driving the way you don't, but know when to choose it. And this is huge for me. Logano figured out how to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Logano learned when to be aggressive and when not to. Ross hasn't figured that out yet. Ross Chastain could have came home second, or he could have at least had an opportunity to win the race. But he admitted it. He took himself out at the end of that race. He admitted it, and it's like, like that leaves a sour taste in my mouth because now I want to give Ross the benefit of the doubt. I'll call out Larson. I'll call out anybody when they do, they have their own issues. But man, like you could have you could have way extended your points lead there by coming home in second. Like to me, that's the mental thing. He chose to retaliate. He chose that like, I'm going to go up and get you and payback. That to me shows that you really don't care about winning. If he cared about winning, he wouldn't have done that.
Yeah. And
like, I think you need a win to get in. You could have, and to me, that's where I still think he needs a little bit more maturing to do as far as on the racetrack. And I'm sorry, it's like with Penske, he let his drivers do that. He told Logano, go ahead, be that guy, go out there, win. I pay you to be in that car and win races. And I get that mentality. But I still feel like Justin Marks, you let your drivers go wild, go do that. That's fine if that's the way you want to do it. But part of me thinks that you should rein him in as the owner a little bit and have at least some conversations on when to do it, when not to do it, because you're tearing up race cars, and it's like that. I know it has nothing to do with me and money, but to me, the owner, I think he's obligated to see what it does for the racing. Yeah, you're making money for the sport. You're clicking, you're getting those clicks, you're getting all this headlines, you're in all these newspapers, you're getting all this notoriety. But is it good for the sport? But is Ross Chastain good for racing? I'm not necessarily certain he's good for racing right now.
You know what we saw yesterday? We saw the ending of a truck race. We didn't see two top 5 talents in the entire world racing out there against each other. We saw the ending of a truck race where two what looked like inexperienced guys let the machismo get a hold of them, and then they ruined themselves and blew a chance at a win for one of them. They just went at it like we see in the truck race happen all the time.
So this might be a weird train of thought, but do you think this is the product of the playoff format? Now follow me here, because I have to back up a little bit to get you into my mind space. So last week on the Dale Jr. download, he had Robbie Reiser on, who was Matt Kenseth's crew chief back in the Roush days, right? And he said something about that Kenseth championship where, they're points racing. There's kind of an art to points racing. You think about the 90s and the early 2000s, you'd have guys days end kind of early. They go back to the garage. They get it as fixed up as they can to send it out because they're still points racing. They're trying to lead a lap to get that extra 5 points. They're trying to do all these things throughout the race to get these extra points. Now, all they're doing is either trying to collect as many stage points as possible and win a race. Kind of that race craft of the big picture of the season is kind of lost. Do you think it's a detriment to some of these younger guys like Ross Chastain who are coming up, who only know win and you're in, you build points, but it's really not as important to build points unless it's stage points, because then it's playoff points and stuff. Do you think there's anything to that, or am I just going off the rails here?
No, I think this is a personal thing between what you do behind the wheel. This is decision making behind the wheel. I don't think they have that in their mentality where you're saying all they know is, hey, all I have to do is this one thing and then I'm good. So I'll race like an idiot just to get that one thing and then I'm good. I mean, these teams still care about points racing. Trust me on that.
For sure they
Larson,
do. Yeah.
You saw Larson. He was 50 laps down and he held up Chastain trying to go after Truex. They got him back out on the racetrack. Chase Elliott, he doesn't have to win a race. He's 60 points back. He doesn't even have to think about winning a race. He could easily point his way in. So it's like these teams and these drivers, they still think about points. Look at Ryan Blaney. He had a fucking Matt Kenseth year last year where, hey, just top 5s, top 3s, you're up there, you're battling, contending for wins. And, at a certain point, I love that strategy over going for the race win.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like you're saying, I think where, hey, you're going for that race win, you might take yourself out too early. And now you never know what it's like racing up front because you're always doing too much too early and getting caught up trying to lock yourself in. I see where your mind is going with that.
Yeah.
I understand your thought process, but I don't think it's that big of a deal for them and to change their whole character into doing what they do on the racetrack.
I'm thinking just kind of specifically for Ross Chastain, where I feel like he's just all or nothing. I'm going out there and I'm trying to win on lap 1 type driver,
Now, I don't want to say this, but I laughed at it. I giggled at it. Someone tweeted, now I'm not, this is just something I giggled at. Someone goes, maybe Ross Chastain is just dumb.
Yeah.
It cracked me up. It cracked me up because it was just one of the, I think it was a peak, was underneath a picture of him. And it's just him smiling after a race. And it says, oh, I didn't mean to, I'm sorry. And it's just and it was like, oh, maybe Ross is just dumb. And I'm like, oh, that was terrible to say. But at a certain point, maybe it's just not registering with him. And it's and this is what I'm saying about the owner. When you keep getting that reassurance that you're not doing anything wrong and everything is fine.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't like Logano, because Roger Penske said, you're fine. I'm paying you to do this. Don't make friends out there. Go win races. I think that stems into their psyche and their mentality of what they do on the racetrack more than maybe like a playoff, just trying to lock in. It's their bosses saying, go ahead, do what you got to do. I don't give a shit. And they never think they're doing anything wrong.
To your point too with that, I forget what the instance was. It was something that happened last season, some on-track incident or what. And the other driver was telling, like, he was pissed off at Ross Chastain, went up and like was bitching at him about something that happened on track. And Ross was just staring like dead through him, like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You know? So, I mean, I don't know.
I think it's one of those things where he blacks out when he's in the race car and just focuses on getting that car to the front and winning. And that's fine. That's great. You know what I mean? But
he's like Ricky Bobby. He wants to go fast.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's one of those things where, and I'll admit it, Joey Logano figured out when to be aggressive, when not to, and like, he doesn't do a lot of those bonehead moves as much as he used to.
And that was kind of the point I was trying to make earlier, where it's like maybe Ross just hasn't figured out, like, hey, there's still points on the line. There's still a bigger picture to worry about, Logano has that now. Like, he knows when to push it and be aggressive. He knows when to sit back, collect stage points, stuff like that.
But don't you think that's on the crew chief and the team to relay that to him and keep him in that mentality?
Can I play devil's advocate?
Sure.
And that's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing is just playing devil's advocate for the sake. I don't think we have a pickle lane, so we can maybe throw, make this the pickle lane here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and say Ross Chastain knows exactly what he's doing, because
he could be.
He's first in points.
Yeah.
He's got the second most playoff points right now. He's got 5 stage wins. I think Ross Chastain knows exactly what he's doing. I think Ross Chastain has seen all the attention that he's gotten over the past 2-3 months, even going back to last year. And I think he knows exactly what he's doing. He's got good PR, good marketing in his ear. And I think this is all part of a bigger picture for Ross.
Yeah, but I think that's exactly it, though, Matt. I think he does have good PR and good people around him. These people found some farmer from Florida and be like, hey, listen, just trust us on this. Just do what we tell you to do. And he's like, oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I get to smash a watermelon off a 100-story score. Yeah. Oh, that sounds great. Oh, yeah, I'd love to do that. Water. Oh, yeah, I get to smash and crash it. Oh, Hail Melon, I get to be on Good Morning America, smash, slide around, and be in. Oh, that sounds good. Keep writing the script, Justin Marks. Keep writing the script.
Yeah.
Eric and Whitey, now this is going to do our listeners no good, but remind me right after we get done recording, before we sign off for the night, Ross Chastain reminds me of somebody that we know, and I'm not going to put it out there, but just remind me. I think you guys are going to get a laugh out of it.
Okay. All right. He reminds me of someone we know too. I want just the way he looks. And
okay. So for me, it's the way he looks and the way he talks. He reminds me of someone specific that we know.
Yeah.
And I think once I tell you guys, this is terrible podcasting right now, but I think once I tell you guys, you won't be able to get it out of your head.
Okay. I'm curious, because I bet you it's the same person.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's gonna be the same person. Anyways, terrible inside jokes. But no, I don't know. I tell you what, I'm enjoying watching the Ross Chastain show.
I love it.
Oh yes,
I love it.
That's what I mean. I'm not saying stop what you're doing, Ross. I'm not saying this, but at a certain point, what I'm saying is he good for the sport? Yes. Is he good for entertainment? Yes. Getting asses in seats and clicks. That's yes. But is he good for racing right now? I don't necessarily know that. You saw and you heard Rick Hendrick kind of saying, hey, Chevy, look at this. He's taking out these cars. They still care. We might not. Owners Championship and Manufacturer Championship is a real thing in our sport.
Yeah.
And I don't think every week when you're taking out other Chevys and top Chevys, I don't know if they necessarily like that all that much. So that's another aspect you have to look into this. It's not just you get a race win. There is other stuff that as a driver and as a part of a team that you have to take into consideration. And it goes back to, they have to relay that to him on the racetrack. So I think this might be bigger than just his incidents on the racetrack right now. And like I said, hey, keep doing what you're doing. Just learn when to do it a little bit more often, Yeah,
maybe punt the rakes a little bit, just a little bit. You don't want to put the reins on completely and slow them down, but you just want to kind of, I don't know, pull them back a little bit. And to your point with the Rick Hendrick looked fucking pissed off. And like you said,
dude, for Mr. H to go out there in a press conference and say that, like, he does not do that shit.
No.
So like you could tell he's over it. He's over the Ross Chastain experience.
And like Hendrick is the premier Chevy partner. They are Chevrolet in NASCAR. And then Trackhouse is also a premier partner. Like they're putting the funding into Trackhouse. Chevy's putting money into them. And when you have infighting like that coming from Hendrick, you know,
hey, that 99 and that 1, you know, come late in the season, there might be a little tinkering going on inside that engine shop.
Well, we're coming up on the Coke 600, and we saw the last time the Ganassi engines had Hendricks in them. We'll see what happens. That should be interesting. That's a big old long race, and a man versus machine. Anyways, that's all I have for really the race. If you guys have anything else to add, I'm not exactly sure anything else stick out to you.
Add on to the Ross thing here quick. I'm just curious. Like, I was trying to think of if it would make me feel better or if it would be, oh my God, I think it would drive the whole fan base crazy. I've been hearing a lot of, like Ross Chastain, he's doing a blah, 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 but he's not winning races. Would you be happier if he was doing this and winning races, or are you happy that because he's doing this, he's not getting those wins?
I think I would be happier if he was winning races, because then it would at least seem worth it, you know?
Yeah, me too.
But then how irritated would the fan base be being like, oh, he's just wrecking everybody and winning races and top of the points and he's just doing whatever he can and, punting everyone out of the way. And that's not the guy I want in the front. You know what I mean? I think people would be more mad if he was winning right now rather than just, I think there's a little bit of you tried to take it out. You didn't win and you came in 29th. That's happening too.
I'm not dropping any names here. I'm not making any comparisons. I'm really not, because I hate the comparison thing. But I seem to remember a pretty polarizing guy back in the 80s and 90s punting people out of the way for wins.
Yeah, and I think if you market it the right way, you need a heel in NASCAR. You need a bad guy. Kyle Busch is a fan favorite now, all of a sudden. And he was a clean driver always, I think
and to my point, that heel, it only works if you could win. You got to be able to market something, you know what I mean? And,
that's the thing.
And that's why I thought it was a really, really bad decision by Ross on Sunday, because I think he had an opportunity there to race Kyle Larson clean, to show that maybe he did mature. We talk about Ty Gibbs a lot and how he used to race. And, this is a moment for Ross Chastain where I think he could have maybe showed the garage that I'm willing to change. I'm not going to retaliate. I'm going to race hard. If I don't get the win, I come home in second. I think that could have been a moment for him, hearing all the whispers of the entertainment and to kind of market him. I think that was an opportunity that week to market him. And he blew his opportunity to become marketable by racing clean and good and hard and having a quote unquote good highlight reel at the end of the race instead of a complete shitbag move that keeps him in the limelight for the wrong shit.
And you want to know what though? I do want to put a little bit of the onus on Kyle Larson too, because in one of those incidents, Larson came down kind of preemptively trying to strike before Ross ran him up the track. So like,
right. That's what I said in the beginning. Like it's both. It started with him. You can't just point the finger at the one. You have to start looking at how others are racing as well. And I think if I'm going to be completely honest, I don't think most fans really pay attention or keep a tally on how certain drivers race other drivers.
Yeah.
You kind of get a feel how other drivers race your driver, but we don't really pay attention to like, or kind of catalog it in our mind how every driver races. But I think now Ross Chastain has highlighted that. And I think people are more in tune to how other drivers are racing other drivers, as I am now, seeing the way Larson is. I never thought that. I'm like, oh, Larson's a good driver. Oh, he's not doing this. That guy, he's good. Now I'm understanding the moves he's pulling and what he's doing to get them and how he is kind of abusing his power on the racetrack.
Yeah. He knows how to sling his car around to put other guys in compromising positions too, and we started noticing it last season. And for sure, like it is a pattern. So, Yeah, I don't know. That's all I have for the race, except for here on the Bump and Run podcast. Everyone loves to talk about the winner won Slick Willy 2 clocks on a Monday, even though I feel like we barely mentioned him today. But we also like to talk about the person that came in last place, and that was one Brennan Poole this week. He had transmission issues on around lap 39 that ended his day before the end of stage 1. Tough break for old Brennan Poole. And now we move on to North Wilkesboro. We're heading to North Wilkesboro. Trucks on track Saturday, 1:30 on FS1 for the Tyson 250, and that is a points-paying race. And then Friday night, we have practice and qualifying on FS1 for Cup starting at 4 p.m., and the qualifying format is that pit crew challenge, so that should be fun to watch. That's how they're going to decide the qualifying. And then Sunday, 5 p.m., we have the All-Star Open race. And then 7 p.m., we have the main race, all on FS1. Fellas, are we going to do picks for the All-Stars? Are we going to do a little?
Why not? I have one in mind right now. I could shoot it out there.
All right. So, interestingly enough, to go over our picks from last week, Eric, you were singing the praises of William Byron. We were all singing the praises of William Byron.
See, what I tell you, I'm doing something. I have some kind of bad mojo going on right now.
And I go, oh, so you're picking Slick Willy 2 clocks. You go, no, I'm picking your driver, Tyler Reddick. He got you 17 points. I picked Martin Truex Jr. He also got me 17 points. And then, Matt, you picked Dennis Hamlin. He got you 25 points. So, since Eric picked first last week, I'm going to let you pick first again as the tiebreaker, and then I'll pick second, and Matt, you could pick last for the All-Star race.
I'm already here in the mountains of North Wilkesboro, boys. As you can see in my background, I'm waiting for you guys.
It looks a little cold in Wilkes County over there.
It's a little chilly this time of year.
So next week, it'll just be Matt and I. Whitey will not be doing the podcast with us as he's not allowed to watch the race or talk about it at all. So it will just be the two of us next week.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Go back. That's a callback from what, 2 seasons ago already?
Yeah. When so early on, before any of this happened, I went on a rant how we will never go back to Wilkes County. We'll never go back. It's never gonna happen. People need to stop holding their breath. And sure as shit, I'm eating crow 3 years later. But
old takes exposed.
But I will stand by this. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of passing at that race. I don't know.
I think the tire fall off is going to create a lot of great racing. And for my pick, I think I just got to do it. We talked about him a lot today as far as changing and knowing when and not to. And there's one driver that every time we go to a new place, somewhere we've never been, never did, dirt, blah, 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 guess who wins it? The 22 of Joey Logano.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to take.
That's a good pick too. I'm also thinking, because it is a very worn out surface, I want to go a veteran. He's running the Tours race on Wednesday. He's in a Ford. I'm going with Brad Keselowski to manage those tires.
Like it.
All right. I'm so happy you guys just kind of gave it to me. So I was going to take Logano simply because we go to Bristol Dirt for the first time, he wins it. Yeah. We go to the Coliseum for the first time, he wins it. I'm sure he's going to win Chicago. I'm sure he's going to win this weekend in North Wilkesboro. But I'm going to take somebody who I believe, now this is reckless, and Race Grub, I know you seem like somebody, you're a commenter for our podcast. First of all, keep commenting. We love it. Second of all, you seem like a savant, like you know the history of the sport pretty good. And I know my buddy Justin Pierce knows the history of the sport. So one of you two, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Harvick has raced at North Wilkesboro in the past. He's the oldest driver we have currently in the Cup Series. So just based off of that alone, I'm going with Harvick this weekend.
I think that's a great pick too. We're all picking veterans and Fords. We'll see what they could do. Of course, this is not a points paying race, but the playoff picture, we are 13 races into the 2023 season, and we have 9 different winners. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Kyle Busch, William Byron, Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Martin Truex Jr., and Denny Hamlin. And interestingly enough, Matt, you're slacking on the stats. You said you were going to bring this up a million times, and you didn't bring it up once.
Can we restart the show?
Yeah.
Can we restart the episode?
Yeah, welcome to the Bump and Run podcast. I'm your host, Michael D. White, joined by my two best friends, Matt the Statman Reilly and Eric Daytona Ron. Matt, tell us what the stat is.
That this is the first time in Slick Willy 2 Clock's career that he has won 3 races in one season.
Yes, and what did we tell you last week? Slick Willy 2 Clocks is having a breakout season this year. Got his 3rd win of the season. Will the veterans succeed and win in Wilkes County? Will it be Brad Keselowski? Will it be Joey Logano? Or will it be Kevin Harvick taking home the trophy that is also
Corey LaJoie's winning this race.
Moonshine still. Could you imagine if Corey LaJoie wins his way through the Open and then wins the All-Star race? I think that would be a fantastic storyline. Don't forget, they only have 1 set of tires to change in the middle of the race, too. 1 pit stop during this race. So that's going to be super interesting to see what happens with the crew chiefs. I can't wait to see what happens. I know I was shitting on it years ago, but I am very excited for this Sunday, 5 p.m. for the All-Star race on FS1. And Matt and Eric will break it all down for you on Monday night right here on the Bump and Run podcast. For Matt the Statman Reilly, for Eric Daytona Ron, I'm Michael D. White saying have a good night.
The Bump and Run. There it is.